Hello, and thank you for joining us today for basic budget training. We will be familiarizing participants with how to maneuver throughout Teams so they can verify funds and reconcile their accounts. Every budget line is comprised of 8 elements referred to as the account code structure. The account code structure begins with the fund code, which is used for all financial transactions to identify the fund group and specific fund. In Waco ISD, we utilize 4 basic fund groups: fiscal funds, which begin and end with the dates of the fiscal year; program funds that typically begin in one fiscal year and end in another; activity funds, or 461 accounts, are raised by organizations such as band, cheerleading, and athletics; trusted agency funds, or 865 accounts, are raised by student or employee groups, such as your senior class, National Honor Society, or your Employee Sunshine Fund. The fund is followed by the function, which is applied to expenditures to identify the purpose of the transaction. The object identifies the nature and object of an account, transaction, or source. The subobject is used to provide special accountability at the local level. The organization code allows us to identify the campus or department the budget line belongs to. Program intent code is used to account for the cost of instruction and other services that are directed toward a particular need. Local option is used to differentiate specific groups, grants, programs, etc. at the local level. And the year indicates the program year for this particular budget line. If you would like more detailed budget coding definitions, those can be found in Appendix B of the Budget Development Guidelines book, which is located on the Business and Financial website under Financial Transparency page. Now that you have an understanding of what makes up the budget code structure, let's determine the correct codes. Here we are going to discuss some of the most commonly used functions and objects. Once again, if you would like more detailed information, please refer to the Account Code Definition page in the Budget Development Guideline book. You may also utilize the Account Coding Quick Reference Guide flip chart, which is available upon request. And at any time, if you would like additional assistance or training, please contact the Budget Department. Here are some of those most frequently used functions. Function 11 is used for expenses associated with teachers and aides. In other words, anything related to day-to-day instruction would fall under Function 11. This could possibly be field trips, band instruments, instructional supplies, and graduation. Function 12 would be used for any expenses associated with librarians, their aides, or assistants. Function 13 is used for expenses associated with staff development. This could be for staff that research and develop new or modified instruction, any type of planning meetings, conferences, or trainings that they might attend, or anything provided by the Region Service Center. Those would all fall under Function 13. Function 36 would be any school-sponsored activity outside of the school day. This could be any type of competition fees, travel, or meals and lodging associated with those competitions. Function 51 are expenses associated with custodial services. For example, if a campus is having an event on a Saturday and needs to bring in a custodian to clean up afterwards, this would fall under Function 51. Function 52 are related expenses associated with security. Security guards for school-sponsored events, including co-curricular and extracurricular events. So if you need to bring in security for a dance or a family function, this would fall under Function 52. Some commonly used objects would be Object 6117. These are wages paid to professional employees hired on a part-time or temporary basis, such as certified teachers working as tutors. Object 6125 would be used to pay individuals who are not certified but who also work as a tutor. Extra duty, Object 6118. These are wages paid to professional personnel for performing duties beyond their normal working day. Object 6121 are wages paid to support personnel for performing duties beyond their normal 40-hour work week. Under Supplies and Miscellaneous, you have Object 6343. This classifies the cost of expenditure for items or goods to be resold. These are tangible items such as t-shirts, candy, concession stands, things of that nature. Those would all fall under 6343. Object 6399 are consumable items such as paper, pencils, workbooks, etc. Object 6498 would be used to purchase trophies and awards or any other type of student incentives. Object 6499 is used to purchase food and refreshments not to be resold, possibly to be used for staff or parent meetings. Also, any decorations would fall under 6499 as well. Travel, Object 6411. This is used to classify the cost of employees traveling on official school business. This would include their transportation, mileage, meals, hotel room, and conference fees. Object 6412 classifies the cost of students traveling on school-sponsored events. Again, this would include meals, hotel room, and participation fees. Object 6494 is used to classify the cost of buses to transport the students. Now that you have a better understanding of the budget code and what elements make up the code, let's discuss TEAMS 101. One thing you always want to consider is, do I have the correct account and are there adequate funds available? Today we will be discussing how to configure your columns, navigate through accounts, what to look for, and how often you should review these accounts. At this point, I am going to log into Teams. Looking at this screen, you might feel a little overwhelmed. Please don't. The screen you're seeing now is referred to as the dashboard or menu screen. The menus available on this screen are based on the permissions associated with your PCN or position, so the main screen you see now will be different than the one you see when you log into your personal computer. On the screen, Teams does offer us several ways of searching for an entry point. You can click the menu to expand and view the entry points until you locate the entry point you wish to use. Entry points, however, can appear under more than one menu option. For instance, I'm clicking on Journal Entry and I see my accounts here, which is what I'm looking for, but I know that I also can find that under Budget. So when I click on Budget, again, I see my accounts. So if you have the time to click menu options and expand to view the entries, that is a viable way to look up the entry points. However, a much faster way would be to use the search entry point at the top of your screen. By entering a few keywords, in this case, since I'm looking for my accounts, I'm going to enter in my and A. This automatically brings up a drop-down menu that includes my accounts and my assets. Since I'm looking for my accounts, I will select that option and it will automatically take me to the correct screen, which saves me the time of having to click and search through the various menus. One of the first things you might notice on the Account Detail tab, which is this tab right here, is a row of columns located in the center of the screen. These are the default columns loaded by Teams. This is a lot of information to be included, and in most cases you will not need to utilize all of it. So the first thing we are going to do is configure our columns to include only the headers we are actually going to use. To do so, I'm going to click on the three lines next to Results. I'm going to select Columns, and then on the next pop-up menu, you will notice that all of the columns have a check mark next to them. This tells Teams that we want to view the information contained in that column on our screen and report. So for those columns I don't want to see, I'm going to remove the check mark or deselect. So I'm going to start with Beginning Transactions, Owner, Worksheet Allocation, Unapproved Journal Entries, Budget Encumbrances, Adopted Budget, and Budget Changes. As you can tell, we basically cut the number of columns in half, but it's still a lot of information here that is going to be a valuable tool for us. Now the columns I see on my header row are those ones I pre-selected a moment ago. In the budget department, we use the column configuration seen here. It serves as a natural flow for the information that Teams is going to give us. While we do suggest this order, it is not mandatory, and of course you are welcome to utilize any particular columns or order that you prefer. These particular columns that I have selected here are the year, This allows the user to see the fiscal year of the budget lines. This is especially helpful when pulling the same budget line for multiple years. The account number will list the account codes. Account name will provide a brief definition of what the line is used for, such as general supplies or items for resale. Amended budget is the budget after any changes since September 1st. Under transactions, if you're looking at expenditure lines, you will notice items already paid as well as journal entries. If you're searching your revenue lines, you will notice all deposits that have been posted to Teams, as well as any journal entries. Under encumbrances, you will notice your POs, your check request, and any other charges that are pending. And lastly, your balance column is what is left to spend after all known system changes. This might not include postage, sales tax, color copy clicks, or any outstanding EDRs, because these charges can typically run a month or more behind. Now let's say you like these columns, but you prefer them to be in a different order. Teams does allow us to click on any of the header options and drag it to whatever position we would like to see it on our toolbar. So let's say you want your balance to be the very first thing you see. You can move it from the far right-hand side to the very first thing you see on the left of your screen. For our purposes today, though, I am going to utilize the basic structure that we utilize in the budget department, again, just because we feel like it flows a little bit easier for us. If you would like more information on the columns that I deselected, please give us a call in the budget department and we'll be happy to review those with you and discuss when you might possibly need those columns. Now that we have our columns set up, let's discuss how we can determine what lines are actually available to you. We can do that in one of two ways. Teams allows us to enter an exact budget code by entering all of the elements of that account code structure. For instance, if I wanted to view 199.11, my supply account, which is $63.99, I would enter in the elements of all of my account code structure. I always want to make sure that I place a check mark next to display accounts with no budget and no activity, and the same for load all. This will allow me to see all lines available regardless if they have a budget or activity, and if they are numerous in length and will not fit on one screen. I want to click search. Now Teams is going to display all the information that matches the criteria entered. Since I searched for only one budget line, I'm only going to have one budget line of information that's returned to me in my download. Now let's say that I wanted to complete a budget transfer and I really did not know what lines had funds in them still, or wasn't even sure what lines were available to me. Teams will allow me to search using what is called wildcards. What that means is I'm going to enter my fund, and for those fields that I want to broaden my search for, I'm going to enter wildcards, otherwise known as asterisks. So I'm going to do so in my function, in my object, same for subobject. I am going to enter my org because as a user on a campus, you will only have access to information at your particular campus. The pick, I want to see everything that's available to me. For local option, you will want to enter the local option that belongs to your group or activity. So in this case, I'm going to use 000. Again, I'm going to place a check mark next to display accounts with no budget and no activity, as well as load all, and then click search. And as you can see, I have many more lines to choose from than I did my previous selection. So this is good in several ways because again, I'm seeing all of my information on one screen in one place, which allows me to know what expenditure lines I have, what revenue lines I have, and the balance in each of those accounts. Now let's just review a few of the lines that we're looking at right here before we go any further. The very first line we see is your 3590 line. It has a balance out here of $17,413.50, and as you can see, that is a negative number. In this particular line, a negative number means that you have funds available to spend. If this is a positive number, that means that you came over from last school year owing money. So again, a negative number means spendable funds. A positive amount means money is owed. Right underneath that number, I see $905.40. This lets me know that there are fundraiser recaps or money collection forms that have not been processed. Now, as a sponsor or a secretary, if you feel that you have turned in all of your recaps or money collection forms, what you'll need to do is check with the Business Services Department to make sure that all of those have been processed. Under amended budget, you have $8,322.01. This amount should equal all budget amounts from fundraiser recaps and money collection forms submitted since September 1. So this is telling me that since September 1, the budget of this particular budget line has been adjusted by $8,322.01. However, I see that there has been deposits made of $9,227.41, hence why we have a balance or recaps and money collection forms still outstanding. This is just at a glance information that you can tell about your accounts without actually having to do anything else on your part. But as I said before, this is a lot of valuable information. Let's say you want to take this information and maneuver it so you can generate totals, add or delete columns and rows, or maybe even create a pivot table. We can send this data to Excel at any time by right-clicking anywhere on the screen and selecting Save as Excel. Once the information is compiled, you will see an option in the bottom left-hand corner that will enable you to open the Excel sheet. In order to enable the worksheet and edit it, you will need to click Enable Editing. Once you have done that, all of the information here can be moved or adjusted or totaled. Anything that you can typically do in Excel, you can do with the data from Teams. Now let's go a little bit further and discuss the information that we were seeing here regarding the lines in the download. Your 3590 line, as I said previously, is your other assigned fund balance. This is the amount that is brought forward from last school year. So last school year, this particular fund had $17,413.50 that was brought forward from last school year. This is a negative number, which means in this case they had spendable funds. If this was a positive number, that would mean money is owed. Any line that begins with 57 are otherwise designated as revenue lines. These are funds deposited and posted in Teams into your account during the current fiscal school year. The next two lines, your 7915 and your 8911, are not available to every local option. So if you don't see those two lines, that is okay, because again, not every local option will have those. If you do see a 7915 line, operating transfers in, or otherwise known as revenue, this means that there were funds moved from another local option by journal entry. Your 8911 line, or operating transfers out, are otherwise known as expenses. These are funds that were moved from this local option to another local option, again by journal entry. Any account line that begins with a 6 is an expense line, and these are transactions which reduce spendable funds. Account lines that begin with 61 are payroll cost. Any lines you see that begin with 62 are professional and contracted services. Lines that begin with 63 are supplies and materials. And lines that begin with 64 are other operating costs. From this download, we can also review individual lines to look at amended budget and transactions. I can do this by clicking on a particular line, highlighting the row, and clicking View Period Summary. This enables me to go and look at any of the items that have a blue link. So let's say, for instance, that I wanted to look at this negative $2,252 to determine what that transaction was. I click on the blue link, and it automatically tells me that this was done back on December 15th. December 15th. It was a requisition to Heather Gay Scott DBA A+ cards. So this was a payment or a requisition put on for a campus to pay for their A+ cards. I can do the same thing with my amendments. If I want to see what made up this $1,640.55, I can click on the blue link. I see that there were 4 budget change requests that took place during the month of November. Again, under Source ID, if I want to click on the blue link, I can see that this was a transaction, a budget transfer that was reversing a previous transfer, and the description or justification as to why that was done. Now, I'm through looking at this entry, but I really don't want to exit out of the program. In order to return to the previous screen, all I have to do is hit my return button or my back button. And that keeps taking me back to the previous screen. Again, all of this information here, you can also send this to Excel again by right-clicking and save as Excel. So any of the screens and data in Teams are able to be sent to Excel. Now, when you're looking at this screen, few things that you want to look at, you always want to look to make sure that you have no negative balances. You want to make sure that there are no negative transactions. And if there are negative transactions, you want to see what caused those transactions to be negative. In some instances, this typically can mean that there is a transaction that was charged to the wrong account, or maybe funds were deposited into one local option and the transaction came from another. So you just want to research it and make sure that there's not something further that needs to be done. Also, you want to look for any transactions that did not have a budget. If there is not a budget, then there should not be any transactions, because in order to have a transaction, you had to have budgeted money for that particular purchase or expense. So as you can tell, we can see a lot of information. The only thing that makes this kind of cumbersome is you do have to continue to click and then click on this or click on that. And what we refer to that as drilling in. So every time you click, you get a little bit more information based on each click that you do. But again, you have to sit there and click on this and click on that. If you don't have time to click on all that information and you would prefer to gather the information with one location, one page, you can do so by going to your Account Transaction tab. I'm going to click on my Account Transaction tab. This screen, you can search as broad or as narrow as you want to, meaning you can search for just a few days, a few months, or you can search the entire year. For our purpose here, I am going to search by the fiscal year, which began on 9/1, and I'm going to go through today's date, which is 5/25. I want to review my revenue account, so I want to see all of my deposits that have been made. And to do this, I'm going to use my wildcards, which means I'm going to leave some of my account code structure blank. I'm going to look for my 461 accounts that are available at my campus to my particular organization. So what this is going to do is going to pull all of my accounts that begin with 461 for my organization or campus, which is 101, and for my particular group. So I will click search. And what I'm seeing here is the date of all of my cash receipts, the amount, and what the cash receipt number was. So you might be thinking by now, well, yeah, that's good information, but when am I really going to use it? Well, how about for your fundraising recaps? This is a good tool to use when you're completing your fundraising recaps or your money collection forms, because the information here will allow you to compare it to your cash receipt book and make sure that you have all of your deposits included. Because here you have the date that the cash receipt was posted to Teams, you have the amount, and you have that cash receipt number. This is all the information you need in order to complete your money collection or your fundraiser recap form. We'd like to thank you for taking time today to join us for Basic Budget Training Teams 101. We look forward to seeing you and having you join us for the next training opportunity, which will be Activity Funds 461 accounts. Have a great day.